There's no taking back the many mistakes that were committed in the NFL offseason a year ago.
Herbert, looking, there's the pump. Johnston can't pull it in. It hit him in the hands.
Let's take a trip down memory lane and reflect on every NFL team's worst offseason move of 2023. Arizona Cardinals drafting Paris Johnson Jr. The Cardinals traded out of the number 3 spot into the number 12 position, and then they traded up via the Detroit Lions into the 6th slot so that way they could take Ohio State offensive tackle Paris Johnson Jr. Johnson Jr. had a tough rookie year, committing 12 penalties and allowing 8 sacks on 1,130 snaps per Pro Football Focus. Atlanta Falcons signing Taylor Heineke. The Falcons signed the ex-Washington Commander to a 2-year deal worth $14 million, hoping that he could serve as an ample QB insurance in case Desmond Ridder didn't quite pan out. Well, the Ridder-Heineke tandem cost Atlanta the NFC South Division crown and head coach Arthur Smith his job. Baltimore Ravens signing Odell Beckham Jr. Looking to bolster the receiver room, the Ravens signed former Pro Bowl wideout Odell Beckham Jr. to a 1-year deal worth $15 million with a max value of $18 million. OBJ finished with only 35 receptions for 565 yards and 3 touchdowns in 14 games. Buffalo Bills extending Jordan Poyer. The Bills gave Poyer a 2-year extension worth $12.5 million in 2022. Poyer had an awfully disappointing final season in Buffalo, recording 0 picks and yielding a 101.5 opponent passer rating when targeted per Pro Football Reference. The Bills released Poyer in the 2024 offseason, making this extension a waste of money and, quite frankly, a waste of time. Carolina Panthers, the Bryce Young trade. Hindsight is 2020, but boy did the Panthers screw this one up big time. Young had a forgettable rookie year that led to the dismissals of head coach Frank Reich and GM Scott Fitterer. Chicago Bears signing Tremaine Edmunds. The Bears signed Edmunds to a 4-year deal worth $72 million in free agency, clearly ignoring the fact that a lot of his success stemmed from playing on a star-studded Buffalo defense. Sure enough, Edmunds failed to live up to the high expectations in year 1 of this deal. He finished with a woeful PFF grade of 56.6 while allowing a 78.5% completion percentage when targeted and 3 TDs in coverage per PFR. Cincinnati Bengals drafting Myles Murphy. The Bengals did not get much out of their 2023 first-round draft choice, who only played 28% of the team's defensive snaps. PFF gave Murphy a rookie grade of 56.2, so clearly there's a lot of room for improvement. Cleveland Browns signing Dalvin Tomlinson. The Browns signed the veteran defensive tackle to a 4-year deal worth $57 million, hoping that he could be a useful complement to superstar pass rusher Myles Garrett. Tomlinson had 3 sacks and 12 QB hits on the year, but he was not a consistent performer in the trenches whatsoever. Dallas Cowboys drafting Motzie Smith. The Cowboys really reached for the Michigan defensive tackle at number 26 in the draft. Smith saw less than a third of the Cowboys' defensive snaps and had just 1 sack and 3 QB hits despite appearing in all 17 games. Denver Broncos trading for Sean Payton. The Broncos acquired the future Hall of Fame head coach via trade with New Orleans, along with a 2024 third-round selection in exchange for the number 29 pick in 2023 plus a 2024 second-rounder. Payton's job was to help Russell Wilson bounce back and turn the Broncos offense into a juggernaut. Wilson bounced back all right, but it was not enough for Payton and the Broncos, who limped to an 8-9 finish. The Broncos cut Wilson after the season and took on a record $85 million charge in dead money. So, Denver gave up all this draft capital to hire Payton to make the team worse. Detroit Lions signing Cameron Sutton. Sutton signed a 3-year deal worth $33 million with the simple task of upgrading their secondary. He allowed a 67.0 completion percentage and a nightmare 112.3 passer rating when targeted. Green Bay Packers drafting Lucas Van Ness. Now understand, it's not Van Ness the player that we disliked about this pick. It's more the fact that the Packers are loaded with pass rushers and game wreckers in the front 7. So why in the world did they draft the Iowa product 13th overall when there were more pressing needs? Houston Texans signing Robert Woods. The Texans signed the ex-Rams star to a 2-year deal worth $15.25 million, hoping that he could serve as at least a capable number 2 receiver to CJ Stroud. Well, thanks to the emergence of both Nico Collins and Tank Dell, Houston did not end up needing Woods anyway. He caught 40 passes for just 426 yards and 1 touchdown, marking far and away the worst statistical season of his career. Indianapolis Colts trading Stephon Gilmore. The Colts finished a surprising 9-8 and just barely missed out on the postseason. Maybe they would have snuck in if they didn't trade All-Pro corner Stephon Gilmore to the Cowboys for nothing more than a 5th-round pick. Gilmore was again rock solid in coverage for the Cowboys, forming a dynamic duo alongside rising star Deron Bland, with Trayvon Diggs being out for most of the year. Jacksonville Jaguars drafting Brenton Strange. This was a strange pick, if you will. The Jaguars already had Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne Jr., and tight end Evan Ingram as their top weapons. They didn't need another TE, yet GM Trent Baalke used his 2nd-round pick at number 61 overall on Penn State's Brenton Strange. Strange caught 5 passes for 35 yards and 1 touchdown in his rookie year. So, remind us why the Jags need a backup tight end? Kansas City Chiefs signing Jawan Taylor. The Chiefs replaced Pro Bowler Orlando Brown Jr. with Jawan Taylor, who signed a mammoth 4-year deal worth $80 million. Yes, the Chiefs won Super Bowl 58 anyway, but what a mess this Taylor signing was. Per PFF, he committed a league-high 20 penalties and allowed 5 sacks. Good thing the rest of KC's O-line was able to mask Taylor's awfulness in the trenches. Las Vegas Raiders signing Jimmy Garoppolo. The Raiders raised plenty of eyebrows when they released Derek Carr with the belief that Jimmy Garoppolo would be an upgrade at QB. Jimmy G signed a 3-year deal worth $72.75 million, reuniting him with Josh McDaniels. And how'd that turn out? 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and a midseason benching in favor of rookie Aiden O'Connell. But, hey, other than that, it wasn't a bad signing by the Raiders at all. Los Angeles Chargers drafting Quentin Johnston. Despite already having 2-star pass catchers in Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, the Chargers opted to take the TCU product 21st overall instead of prioritizing other positions of need. Johnston was a total non-factor in his rookie year, hauling in just 38 receptions for 431 yards and 2 touchdowns. Making matters even worse for LA, the next 2 picks were fellow wideouts Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison, who both hit the 70 catch and 800 yards receiving marks. Los Angeles Rams releasing Bobby Wagner. Les Snead mastered the 2023 offseason for the most part, hence the Rams' unexpected return to the postseason. But they cut him anyway to save money, and Wagner went back to the arch-rival Seahawks, where he earned his 9th Pro Bowl nod. Miami Dolphins drafting Cam Smith. Now, this is not a knock against Smith. It's just Miami already had 2 superstar corners in Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard. So, using their initial 2023 draft pick, 51st overall, on the South Carolina corner was, well, a bit of a head-scratcher. Smith saw very little playing time as a rookie and made no impact whatsoever. Minnesota Vikings signing Josh Oliver. Despite the presence of TJ Hawkinson, the Vikings decided that they needed another expensive tight end. So, Josh Oliver was given a 3-year, $21 million pact, despite being a career backup with 2 career TDs up to that point. Sure enough, Oliver's impact in Minnesota was minimal. He hauled in 22 receptions for 213 yards and only 2 touchdowns. To think, the cap-strapped Vikings really could have just used that money to retain Dalvin Cook or address their leaky defense. New England Patriots signing Juju Smith-Schuster. Rather than retain top wideout Jacoby Myers, the Pats let him walk to free agency, then replaced Mac Jones' favorite target with Juju Smith-Schuster. In 11 games with the Pats, Smith-Schuster had 29 receptions for 260 yards and a touchdown. Just one of Bill Belichick's last major mistakes as a GM that led to his rather sour departure this year. New Orleans Saints signing Derek Carr. When the Saints signed Carr to a 4-year, $150 million deal in free agency, the message was simple. Winning the hapless NFC South Division crown was mandatory. Anything else on top of that was gravy. And yet, the Saints couldn't even do that, even with the benefit of a weak schedule. Carr's inconsistent play was a key reason as to why. He threw for just 3,878 yards and 25 touchdowns against 8 interceptions. New Orleans finished a disappointing 9-8 and missed out on the division to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who won it via tiebreaker. New York Giants extending Daniel Jones. After his career year in 2022, the G-Men handed Danny Dimes a lucrative 4-year extension worth $160 million. Jones responded by going back to his usual habits. He lost 5 of 6 starts and had 2 touchdowns against 6 interceptions while taking 30 sacks, before suffering a season-ending ACL tear against the Raiders. The talent around him was minimal, sure, but it didn't look good on Jones when both Tyrod Taylor and Tommy DeVito played much better football in Jones' his absence. New York Jets drafting Will McDonald IV. The Jets had more than enough pass rushers heading into the 2023 NFL Draft. They sorely needed help on the O-line, yet GM Joe Douglas couldn't help but reach for Iowa State edge rusher Will McDonald with the number 15 pick. That neglecting of the O-line led to Rodgers getting battered early on in his Jets debut, and he sadly suffered a season-ending Achilles tear early in the first quarter. In a limited role with the Jets, McDonald had 3 sacks in 15 games. So, remind us exactly why the Jets needed a rotational edge rusher instead of an offensive lineman again. Philadelphia Eagles re-signing James Bradberry. After a bounce-back 2022 season, the Eagles rolled the dice again on Bradberry by giving him a 3-year extension worth $38 million. Bradberry inexplicably went from second-team All-Pro to a complete liability. Per Pro Football Reference, he allowed 740 yards and 11 touchdowns in coverage while yielding a pathetic opponent's passer rating of 114.3. Pittsburgh Steelers signing Patrick Peterson. The future Hall of Famer had a nice bounce-back campaign in Minnesota, leading to a $14 million contract over 2 years from the Steelers. But Peterson regressed considerably after going to Steel City, allowing 4 TDs in coverage and an opponent's passer rating of 91.5. The Steelers released Peterson ahead of 2024 free agency in a cap-saving move. San Francisco 49ers drafting Jake Moody. The 49ers had one of football's best kickers in Robbie Gould, so it was a stunner when they released him last year. It was equally surprising that they used a 3rd-round pick, 99th overall, on a kicker in Michigan's Jake Moody. Moody had a pretty meh 84.0 field goal percentage, missing a game-winning 41-yarder against the Browns. He continued this shakiness into the postseason, missing 2 of 8 field goal attempts and having an extra point blocked in Super Bowl 58. Seattle Seahawks drafting Derek Hall. Having signed Bobby Wagner and Draymond Jones to bolster an already deep pass rush, the Seahawks really didn't need to use any more early-round picks on the defensive line. But GM John Schneider used the number 37 pick on Auburn's Derek Hall anyway. Hall didn't start a single season of his 17 game appearances, recording 0 sacks or takeaways. Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafting Kalijah Kancey. The Bucs were already loaded in the front 7 and could have really used more help on the O-line, but at any rate, GM Jason Light decided to use the number 19 pick anyway on Pittsburgh defensive tackle Kalijah Kancey. Kancey had 4 sacks in 14 games, but he was a weak link in the run D. PFF graded him at 46.6 on the year, meaning that he was essentially doing more harm than good when he was on the field. Tennessee Titans signing Andre Dillard. The 2019 first-round pick signed a 3-year deal worth $29 million in 2023 free agency. Dillard was a mega bust in 2023, however. Per PFF, he allowed a whopping 12 sacks and committed 5 penalties and only 562 offensive snaps. Washington Commanders drafting Emmanuel Forbes. Washington used the number 16 pick on Mississippi State corner Emmanuel Forbes, hoping that he would grow into an elite shutdown corner that the defense was lacking. Instead, Forbes was picked on time and time again by opposing QBs throughout his rookie year. Per PFR, he allowed 598 yards in coverage and yielded a 103.0 passer rating, leading the Commanders to bench him on several occasions. But hey, what do you think was the worst move of the 2023 NFL offseason? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. But hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.